Hello, ladies. It is Tiffany of Clarity, Confidence, Courage, Women's Empowerment, and I'm coming to you today to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that is the relationship that we have with our parents or those who raised us, whether it's your guardians or other family members, and how they affect your relationships as you get older. Ladies, let me tell you from personal experience, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had daddy issues, okay? And some of you might be having mommy issues. I've had clients that have had both. They both have serious issues with their parents and how they were raised and how all of that impacted the types of relationships that they had when they got older. And not just relationships, romantic relationships, but also friendships. Basically, any type of interaction, social interaction that they had with another person was because of how they interacted with their parents. Ladies, growing up, I had, a great family. I was partially raised by my grandparents. My mom worked a lot, and my biological father was not in my life. He was in and out. Okay, he was 1 foot in or 1 foot out. Sometimes he would come around, sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes he called me on my birthday, sometimes he didn't. I didn't meet him till I was like 4 years old. I literally can remember when I met my biological father. But most of my childhood, we were estranged, and it wasn't even a situation because he and my mother were in a relationship together still when I was a kid. They weren't having like arguments or fights. It wasn't even that. My mother never talked bad about my biological father, but he was never a solid, stable person. He was the type of person that would pick me up one weekend, we go get something to eat or talk a little bit, drop me off. That was it. Then he'd say, I'm going to pick you up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to go to this and that. And I would get ready and be excited. And then he'd call and say, I have to cancel at the last minute. Or he just wouldn't show up at all. He was the type of person that he wasn't dependable. He didn't do what he said he was going to do. He didn't have a consistent behavior that I could depend on and believe was going to be there for me. He was not emotionally available for me to depend on him as a child, as a young woman. He never showed me what it was to be in a relationship with the opposite sex, a man, and be treated well. I never saw that from my biological father. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies. I had other wonderful men in my life. Eventually, my stepfather came into my life. Like I said, my grandfather was there. He helped raise me, him and my grandmother. And then I had other male relatives that did do great things for me in my life growing up. But it's something to be said about the parent that is supposed to be there. And I think the biggest issue for a lot of young women when they don't have their biological parents in their life, they always wonder why. Why did they give me up? Or why did they not want me? Or why did they not come into my life? Especially when you don't know. It's one thing to have a biological parent that may have passed away. But even in that situation, you wonder what it would have been like had they been in your life, had they been around you. So there's always those question marks that come up when it comes to those bonds that you have with your biological parents or the people that you feel like should have been in your life. And if you grew up in a situation where you did grow up with both parents in the household, but one may have not been emotionally available. You had one parent that you can depend on, but that other parent that was in the household with you, they didn't talk, they didn't express themselves, they didn't do things with you, they didn't spend time with you. It's just like not having them there at all. I've had clients who have had parents where the parents are in the household, but one parent is dealing with an addiction. So yes, they're in the household, but all of the attention is being put on them and their addiction, whether that's alcoholism or drug abuse. So ladies, that concept of dysfunctionality is still present. And they, as women, are still not being taught how to relate to the opposite sex. So here's the thing, ladies. Here's the reason why I tell this story, because eventually when I got older and became a young woman and started to date and started to get out there into the real world and meet men, I had no standard for how I should be treated as a woman. The only type of standard that I had was what I experienced growing up. Now, thankfully, I had, again, my grandfather there, my stepfather there, so I had some inkling of how to be treated. But it was, for some reason, the human psyche always goes to the negative. It always somehow gets caught up in what you don't have versus what you do have. And so I found myself in relationships with men that a lot of times embodied the same characteristics of my biological father and how he treated me. You know, I would call them, they wouldn't call me back. One weekend they'd be with me, the next weekend, you know, they would cancel at the last minute, or they never would follow through with what they said they were going to do, or they never, you know, really treated me on a level of respect and dignity and truly showed me that they valued me or cared about me. And ironically, when I was able to step back years later and reflect, their behavior exemplified and was identical to the same behavior as my biological father. There was that connection. But at the time, ladies, I couldn't see it. I couldn't make the connection because I was in it. I was in the throes of this relationship with this person that I thought cared about me. And the other thing that I realized when I was able to reflect back was that I was trying to prove my value in every single relationship I was in. With every male partner that I had, I was always trying to prove that I was worthy of their time and worthy of their energy and worthy of their efforts. I never truly believed that I was good enough for them. And when I think back again to my own biological father, I realized that even as a kid, I was trying to prove my worthiness to him. And so every aspect of my life, I realized that relationship that I had with my biological father was imprinted inside of me. It was in my mind that in order to have someone of the opposite sex love me, I had to prove myself to them. I had to prove my value. I had to prove my self-worth because it wasn't going to be shown and it wasn't going to be given unless I proved it. And I had to work really hard to get it. And that's exactly what happened, ladies. I started to attract men that automatically showed me they didn't care about me. And every relationship that I had, I found myself working extremely hard to prove to them that I was good enough, that I was worthy enough to be with them. And what that did, it led to a lot of emotional turmoil for me. I can tell you stories and stories about some of the worst relationship experiences that I had. But the issue was that I didn't believe in my own value and my own self-worth because I had never taken the opportunity to clean up all of my imprints of that belief that I had from my childhood, the relationship that I had with my biological father. All those beliefs were still inside of my brain. And so when I eventually got married, I attracted a man who told me verbally that I was good enough, that I was pretty enough, that I was valued. Now, his actions didn't always reflect that, but his words said it. And for me, the mindset that I was in, that was good enough. And I went blind to all the other issues that he had. Because in my brain, I thought as long as he could give me this thing that my biological father never gave me and that none of my other relationships ever gave me, then I could ignore everything else. Well, ladies, that was a recipe for disaster. And years later, after everything hit the fan and I began to go on my journey to healing, was I able to step back and really reflect on the fact that the issues I had in my marriage were issues that I had had for my entire life. And it really stemmed from the foundation that had come from my biological father. Now, the reason I think this is so important for a lot of women, especially the clients that I work with, is that they all have that same issue in common in that they have relationship issues and they don't know why. And they're mimicking certain behaviors that they saw growing up in their childhood. And so when I work with my clients one-on-one, one of the biggest things that we must do before we can move forward is to clean up all the stuff that they had in the past. And don't get me wrong, ladies, I'm not talking about full-on therapy, but I'm talking about confronting the main imprint that you had as a child and getting really crystal clear on what it takes to clean that up so that you can start having true relationships that value you. And the only way to do that is to get clear on valuing yourself, is to get clear on how you feel about yourself, and to get to a point where you realize that the only person that you have to prove your worthiness to is you. You have to prove your worthiness to yourself. You have to prove your value to yourself. You have to validate yourself. You cannot look to any other human being to give that to you. It is only through yourself that you can prove your worthiness and have that worthiness be reflected to the world. And when you work hard on yourself and you prove your value to yourself and you believe in your self-worth and you believe in your confidence and your abilities, when you see yourself in that space, that is when you no longer have to prove yourself to anyone or validate yourself to anyone. Because when you believe in your own worthiness, when you believe in your own value, everyone else will believe it too. And that is when, and the only time, when you can truly start to attract relationships and bring in relationships into your life that reflect how worthy, how much people value you and how much people love you. And that really doesn't mean just men. It can be anybody, whoever you consider your partnerships or your relationships to be. And even in friendships, when you put yourself first, when you value yourself, when you love yourself, and when you show yourself dignity and respect, those are the types of friends that come into your life because they see how you treat yourself. And so they know that you're living at a level that is up here and not down here. So ladies, wanted to do this video because I grew up with daddy issues, and I know so many women that come to me are going through the same thing. Those issues are literally haunting their current present reality, and they want it to change. So ladies, let me know if you can relate to this video, if you have ever had daddy issues or mommy issues or any situation in your childhood that you had to really wake up to and say, wow, that's me, Tiffany, you're talking to me and I'm going through it right now, or I've been there and I had to heal. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you're going through this and if you know of others that are going through this. As always, make sure that you like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell for more videos, and let me know if there's any videos that you specifically want me to do or any topics that you specifically want me to talk about. All right, ladies, that is it for me. As always, I am Tiffany, your Clarity, Confidence, Courage coach, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.